Imagine a world where every sunrise was a gamble, every shadow a potential predator, and simply making it to tomorrow was the ultimate victory. We think we know struggle, but our ancestors faced an unforgiving reality, a daily fight for existence against odds we can barely fathom. Today, we're stepping back millions of years, stripping away the comforts of modernity to truly understand the raw, relentless battle for life that forged the very essence of who we are. This isn't just history. This is the origin story of human grit, a testament to an indomitable spirit that persevered against unimaginable forces. Understanding their journey is understanding the DNA of human courage, and it will change how you see your own challenges forever. Picture the dawn of humanity, not as a gentle awakening, but a violent birth into a world teetering on a knife's edge. Our earliest ancestors, the first whispers of Homo, emerged into an epoch defined by its savagery. The African savanna, beautiful as it was a relentless gauntlet of death. Every rustle in the tall grass could mean a saber-toothed cat or a monstrous hyena, animals perfectly evolved to tear flesh from bone. They weren't at the top of the food chain, not yet. They were often the prey, constantly scanning the horizon, every nerve alive to danger. Droughts stretched for agonizing months, turning lush plains into dust bowls promising starvation. Floods could wipe out entire settlements in a single night. Disease, invisible and merciless, stalked every camp, turning a simple cut into a death sentence. Life was cheap, and survival was a full-time, brutal occupation. Think about it. No hospitals, no antibiotics, no protective walls, just raw instinct, a rapidly evolving mind, and the terrifying, beautiful vulnerability of being alive. Their bodies were not yet the powerhouses we know today. They were a work in progress, often smaller, slower, and weaker than the apex predators surrounding them. It took a special kind of tenacity, an unbroken will to live, just to make it through one more day in a landscape that seemed purpose-built to extinguish their fragile flame. Yet, amidst this terrifying reality, something extraordinary happened. Our ancestors didn't just survive, they began to thrive. They weren't the strongest, but they were the smartest, armed with a powerful weapon, their minds. It started simply with a rock striking another rock, transforming a crude stone into a cutting edge. These first tools, the Oldowan choppers, were game changers. Suddenly, they could butcher carcasses left by larger predators, access marrow, and strip tough hides, resources previously out of reach. But the true revolution arrived with fire. Taming it wasn't just about warmth, it was about transforming their world. Fire kept predators at bay, a flickering, defiant barrier against the darkness. It cooked food, making tough meats and fibrous plants digestible, unlocking more nutrients and fueling bigger, more complex brains. It became a social hub, a place for stories, for planning, for community. Around the fire, humanity began to truly separate itself from the animal kingdom. Not just surviving, but connecting, learning, evolving. This wasn't an overnight discovery. It was countless generations of trial and error, of desperate innovation driven by the primal need to endure. Each chipped stone, each controlled flame, represented a colossal leap in a world that demanded constant adaptation. It was a defiant act of creativity, a testament to the power of a species unwilling to accept its place at the bottom of the food chain. They didn't just adapt to their environment, they began slowly, painstakingly to shape it. Even with their burgeoning intelligence and tools, life was brutally short and filled with unimaginable hardship. The average lifespan for many early hominins was probably no more than 30 years, and a significant portion of individuals never made it past childhood. Infant mortality rates would have been staggering, each birth a perilous event, each young life a fragile candle in a hurricane. Think about the physical toll. Every day was a marathon, often on foot, across vast and unforgiving terrain. collecting food, carrying water, avoiding danger. It was a constant expenditure of energy with little opportunity for rest or recuperation. Broken bones, infections from minor wounds, tooth decay, parasitic diseases, these were not inconveniences, but life-threatening crises. There was no pain relief, no antiseptic, just the raw agony and the body's desperate, often futile fight to heal itself. Every scar, every gnarled bone found in archaeological digs tells a story of unimaginable pain and resilience. A fractured limb that healed crookedly, a skull wound that didn't quite kill. These weren't just injuries, they were trophies of survival, badges of a life lived on the edge. Imagine the stoicism, the sheer force of will required to function, to care for others, to hunt, to protect, while carrying such wounds. Their lives were a symphony of small victories against overwhelming odds, a constant reminder of their own mortality. Beyond tools and fire, the greatest weapon our ancestors wielded was their developing brain. The subtle shifts in skull size, the internal architecture we infer from fossil records, tell a story of rapid cognitive evolution. This wasn't just about raw intelligence, it was about complex problem-solving, planning for the future, and perhaps most crucially, effective communication. Imagine a hunting party coordinating a strategy to bring down a formidable animal. This requires more than grunts and gestures. It demands a shared understanding, an ability to convey complex ideas, to teach and to learn. While full language as we know it took millions of years to develop, the foundations were being laid. This evolving capacity for communication allowed knowledge to be passed down through generations, building a collective wisdom that no single individual could ever accumulate. It meant remembering where the best water holes were during a drought, knowing which plants were safe to eat, understanding the migration patterns of animals. It meant abstract thought, the ability to foresee consequences, to innovate beyond immediate need. This wasn't just about survival, it was about understanding their world, creating meaning, and building the very first frameworks of culture and society. Their minds were the ultimate adaptive advantage, an internal landscape as rich and complex as the external world they fought to master. But survival wasn't just about adapting to one place. It was about the courage to leave it. Our ancestors were explorers by necessity, driven by changing climates, dwindling resources, and the innate human curiosity to see what lay beyond the next ridge. These were not leisurely migrations. They were epic, often perilous journeys into the unknown, pushing the boundaries of their existence. Imagine the immense bravery required to step away from the familiar, leaving behind ancestral lands for distant, unmapped territories. They faced new predators, unfamiliar plants, different climates, and geographic barriers that would challenge modern explorers. The Sahara Desert, the dense forests of Asia, the frozen plains of Europe, each presented a unique set of life-or-death puzzles. They carried their knowledge, their tools, and their families, their entire future resting on their collective resilience. These migrations weren't just movements of people. They were movements of ideas, of adaptations, of genetic diversity. Each journey enriched the human story, pushing the species to evolve faster, to become more versatile. Every step was a declaration of defiance against limits, a bold assertion that humanity would not be confined. From the savannas of Africa, across continents, over land bridges, and eventually across vast oceans, their restless spirit laid the groundwork for every expedition and discovery that followed. So, why does any of this matter to us, sitting here in our comfortable lives today? Because the struggles of our prehistoric ancestors are not some distant, irrelevant past. They are the bedrock of our present. Every challenge they overcame, every innovation they sparked, every act of cooperation they fostered, forged the very qualities we admire most: resilience, ingenuity, empathy, and an unyielding will to live. The human spirit, that spark of defiance and hope, wasn't born in comfort. It was hammered into existence in the crucible of millions of years of relentless pressure. When we face our own struggles today, a personal setback, a global crisis, we are not starting from scratch. We are drawing upon an ancient, deep reservoir of strength that was hard-won by those who came before us. Their story isn't just one of survival, it's one of triumph. It's a powerful reminder that our capacity to overcome, to adapt, to innovate is not just a learned trait, it's an inherited birthright. It's woven into the fabric of our being. A silent promise that no matter how dire the circumstances, the human spirit, refined in the fires of prehistory, will always find a way. From the perilous savannas to the global migrations, our ancient ancestors faced a world designed to break them. Yet through their unparalleled ingenuity with tools and fire, their profound cognitive leaps in communication, and an almost unbelievable resilience against disease and a short, hard life, they not only survived but flourished. Their journey wasn't just about enduring, it was about becoming, evolving into the adaptable, capable species we are today, carrying their legacy of grit in our very DNA. What aspect of our ancestors' survival story inspires you most? Let me know in the comments below. And if you're ready to unlock more incredible tales from history that reveal the true power of the human spirit, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Imagine a world shrouded in perpetual night and primal fear, where humanity was just another animal. Then, a single flickering spark changed everything, igniting not just wood, but the very essence of who we are. We often take fire for granted today, a flick of a switch, a match strike, and it's there. But millennia ago, the discovery and control of fire wasn't just a convenience. It was the ultimate turning point for our ancestors. It's the story of how a primal force became the bedrock of human civilization. This isn't just about ancient history. It's about understanding the deep, enduring connection between fire and our very humanity. You'll never look at a flame the same way again, because you're about to discover how it sculpted our minds, our bodies, and our societies into the complex tapestry we know today. For hundreds of thousands of years, our hominid ancestors probably feared fire, or at best, approached it with cautious fascination. Think about it. A raging wildfire, a lightning strike, a volcanic eruption. These were forces of destruction, not tools. There was no discovery of fire in the sense we imagine. Fire was always there, a part of the untamed world. The real revolution wasn't finding fire, it was keeping it. Imagine a small group of early humans huddled in a cave watching a wildfire recede. What if they dared to approach a smoldering log? What if they recognized its warmth, its light, its power to ward off predators? That initial terrifying act of carrying a burning branch back to their shelter, that was the first step. It was a borrowed miracle, a fragile ember carried through the dark, signaling the dawn of something entirely new. This wasn't just survival. It was the spark of ingenuity, the first conscious act of manipulating the world around them. Once fire was tamed, even just barely, it became an anchor. Picture the stark contrast. A cold, dark night filled with the growls and rustles of unseen predators versus the same night warmed and illuminated by a flickering flame. The benefits were immediate, profound, and utterly transformative. Fire became the ultimate protector. Those predatory eyes, once terrifying in the gloom, now hesitated, held at bay by the dancing light and crackling heat. A ring of fire around a camp was an impenetrable fortress against the night's dangers. Beyond defense, fire offered warmth, expanding the habitable zones for our ancestors. No longer were they restricted to equatorial regions. Now they could venture into colder climates, huddled around a communal fire, surviving winters that would have otherwise been deadly. It allowed them to dry hides for clothing and shelter, making their existence less precarious. The hearth became more than just a source of heat. It became the very heart of the camp, a place of safety and repose, a shared beacon against the vast, indifferent wilderness. It was the first true home, perhaps the most understated yet monumental shift brought by fire was its impact on our diet. Before fire, every meal was raw. Tough roots, sinewy meat. It took immense energy and time to chew and digest. Our ancestors spent hours gnawing, their bodies expending precious calories just to process what they ate. But with fire, everything changed. Cooking food breaks down tough fibers, making it softer, easier to chew, and far more digestible. More nutrients could be extracted, and dangerous pathogens in raw meat were eliminated. This wasn't just about convenience. It was about nutrition, and ultimately about evolution. Less time chewing and digesting meant more available energy for other activities. More importantly, it meant a steady, high-quality fuel source for the most demanding organ in the human body, the brain. Anthropologists suggest that the advent of cooking directly contributed to the dramatic increase in human brain size. With a reliable, energy-rich diet, our ancestors could afford to grow bigger, more complex brains, setting the stage for advanced cognition, language, and culture. Fire literally fed our intelligence, making us smarter, faster thinkers. Think about the modern campfire, the storytelling, the laughter, the shared silence. That's not a recent phenomenon. It's an echo of our deepest past. With fire, the day didn't end when the sun went down. The flickering light extended waking hours, creating a central gathering point where individuals could truly connect. Around the warmth of the hearth, stories were told, knowledge was shared, and communal bonds were forged. It transformed solitary survival into collective endeavor. This prolonged period of social interaction was crucial for the development of complex language. You couldn't just grunt and point. You needed to articulate, to explain, to teach. The firelight created a stage for communication, for sharing hunting strategies, for teaching tool-making techniques, for transmitting the accumulated wisdom of the group. It fostered empathy, cooperation, and a sense of shared identity. The communal fire was where us truly began, moving beyond mere biological grouping to a conscious, interdependent society. It was the crucible of culture itself. Fire wasn't just for cooking and comfort. It was a potent tool for shaping the world. Our ancestors quickly learned its industrial applications. Spear tips, hardened in fire, became more effective and durable. Digging sticks, fire-hardened, could penetrate tougher ground, making foraging easier. Later, controlled burns were used to clear land, encouraging new growth that attracted game, or preparing plots for early agriculture. It was the first large-scale manipulation of the environment, a testament to human ingenuity. The light of fire also allowed exploration into the dark depths of caves, leading to the creation of breathtaking cave art, our first galleries, our first profound expressions of symbolic thought. These ancient artists, working by the flickering glow, immortalized their world, their beliefs, their dreams. Fire also eventually paved the way for ceramics, metallurgy, and countless other technological advancements that relied on its controlled power. It didn't just warm them, it empowered them to mold the very fabric of existence. So when we look back at the journey of prehistoric fire, it's not just a detached historical account. It's the story of us. The warmth of a hearth still feels like home. The crackle of a campfire still draws us in, inviting conversation and camaraderie. This isn't coincidence. It's an ingrained ancestral memory. Fire didn't just change our tools or our diet. It changed our brains, our bodies, and our very souls. It made us less afraid of the dark, literally and metaphorically. It spurred our intelligence, nurtured our empathy, and ignited our capacity for culture and innovation. The human story is a narrative woven with threads of fire, a testament to the transformative power of a single controlled force. We are, in a very real sense, the children of the flame. And that enduring spark, that desire to create, to connect, to conquer the unknown, it still burns brightly within each of us. From a borrowed spark to a foundational pillar, fire utterly reshaped human evolution. It offered protection, fueled our brains through cooked food, forged our first societies around the communal hearth, and empowered us to master our environment. This ancient elemental force didn't just help us survive. It made us human, igniting the very spirit of innovation and community that defines us today. What do you think was the single most impactful way fire changed early humans? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if this journey through our fiery past ignited your curiosity, hit that subscribe button for more deep dives into the history that shaped our world. Forget everything you think you know about caveman love. The story of our earliest ancestors, their relationships, and the primal drive that forged our very existence is far more profound, complex, and breathtaking than any Hollywood myth. We stand today, the culmination of millions of years of evolution, of countless generations that struggled, survived, and loved. But have you ever truly paused to consider the lives of those who laid the very foundation for us, the men and women of the Stone Age? How did they find connection, raise families, and navigate the most fundamental aspects of human existence in a world constantly on the brink? This isn't just about survival of the fittest. It's about the survival of the heart, the family, and the species. We're going back to the beginning, to peel back the layers of time and understand the most intimate and world-changing forces that shaped humanity. What you're about to hear will not only challenge your assumptions about prehistoric life, but will also reveal the deep, unbreakable threads that connect their struggles and triumphs to your own capacity for love, resilience, and belonging today. Prepare to see yourself in them and them in you like never before. Picture a world painted in stark browns and grays, where every sunrise brought a fresh battle. Predators lurked in the shadows, resources were scarce, and the elements were a relentless enemy. In this unforgiving landscape, life itself was a miracle, and the continuation of that life was the highest imperative. This wasn't some romantic ideal. It was a deeply ingrained, visceral need. The drive to reproduce wasn't just about pleasure. It was the species' unwavering whisper, persist. Every pair, every act of procreation was a tiny, defiant victory against the vast indifference of the prehistoric world. Consider the sheer physical challenge. Raising children meant more mouths to feed, more vulnerable lives to protect. It meant shared burdens, shared risks, and a desperate hope that a few of those tiny, fragile beings would make it to adulthood. Their bodies, their very biology, were finely tuned instruments for survival and continuation. Sexual maturity came early, lifespans were short, and every opportunity to pass on their genetic legacy was precious, a testament to an indomitable will to endure. It's easy to dismiss this as purely animalistic, but there's a profound beauty in that pure, unadulterated will to exist. It's the engine that propelled us from scattered bands to the complex societies we inhabit now. It began with that fierce, hopeful act again and again, but here's where the story gets truly captivating. Prehistoric relationships weren't solely about the act of reproduction. Evidence suggests something far deeper began to take root. Something that transcended mere instinct and hinted at the very beginnings of what we recognize as human connection. Imagine the immense vulnerability of a human infant, helpless for years, demanding constant care. This isn't sustainable with fleeting encounters. This vulnerability paradoxically became the forge of enduring bonds. It necessitated cooperation, shared responsibility, and a division of labor. Anthropological studies, archaeological findings, and the examination of modern hunter-gatherer societies paint a picture of pair bonding. Not necessarily monogamy as we define it today, but often intense, functional partnerships that lasted long enough to ensure offspring survival. Why? Because a male who stayed, who contributed to the hunt and protected his mate and young, dramatically increased the chances of his genes making it to the next generation. A female who chose a reliable partner gained security and resources crucial for her and her babies. This wasn't just a transactional arrangement. It was the crucible where empathy, commitment, and perhaps even love, in its earliest, most primal form, were born. They weren't just partners in reproduction. They were partners in the terrifying, beautiful endeavor of life itself. Look at the archaeological record. Carefully buried individuals, sometimes side by side or adorned with grave goods. These aren't just practical burials. They speak to grief, to memory, to a bond that death couldn't entirely sever. These were individuals who mattered to each other. No man or woman was an island in the Stone Age. While pair bonds were crucial, the broader social network, the clan, the tribe, was the ultimate safety net and a central player in the reproductive story. It wasn't just about who you paired with, but who your group was connected to. Think about it. Who would protect your offspring if you perished? Who would share food during a famine? The answer lay in the intricate web of kinship and cooperation. Group living offered protection from predators, facilitated larger hunts, and provided a shared pool of knowledge and labor. Reproduction, then, wasn't a private affair. It was a communal investment. Every new birth strengthened the group, adding potential hunters, gatherers, and protectors. The health and fertility of the women, the strength of the men, were matters of collective importance. This meant certain social rules, however unwritten, began to emerge. Incest avoidance, for instance, became crucial not just for genetic diversity, but for maintaining social cohesion. Exogamy, marrying outside one's immediate group, fostered alliances between clans, expanding territories and resources. Children were raised not just by their parents, but by the entire group. Grandmothers, aunts, uncles, everyone played a role. This allo-parenting strategy meant higher survival rates for offspring, distributing the immense burden of childcare across many hands. It's a profound testament to our innate social nature. The development of language, art, and ritual within these groups served to reinforce these bonds, creating shared identities and deepening emotional connections. Love in this context wasn't just between two individuals. It was a powerful force that bound entire communities together, ensuring their collective future. So if survival was paramount, what made one cave person choose another? What were the signals of attraction in a world without Tinder or subtle flirtation? The answers lie in health, strength, and the promise of genetic fitness. For women, signs of fertility were key. A healthy physique, clear skin, and the capacity to bear and nurse children. For men, it was often about hunting prowess, physical strength, and the ability to protect and provide. These weren't superficial traits. They were literally life and death indicators. But it went deeper. Shared skills, intelligence, resourcefulness, these would have been highly valued. A man who could craft superior tools, or a woman who knew the best foraging spots, brought immense value to a partnership. These were early forms of provider and nurturer qualities. And what about adornment? Even in the deepest past, we find evidence of shells, beads, pigments. These weren't just practical items. They were signals. A shell necklace wasn't just pretty. It might have indicated access to distant resources, skill in crafting, or simply a desire to stand out. It was a prehistoric advertisement of status and desirability. Then there's the question of bonding behaviors. We see parallels in other primates, grooming, sharing food, spending time together. Imagine the subtle glances across a campfire, the shared laughter over a successful hunt, the comfort offered during a harsh winter night. These were the ancient equivalents of dates, building trust and connection. These moments, these silent declarations of interest, weren't just about securing a mate. They were about finding a partner in the most profound sense, someone to face the world with, someone to build a future, however uncertain, alongside. Life in the Stone Age revolved around powerful natural cycles. The moon, the seasons, the fertility of the land, and most profoundly, the cycles of the human body. Pregnancy and birth were not just biological events. They were momentous, often perilous transitions, shrouded in mystery and likely imbued with sacred significance. Imagine a woman giving birth in a cave, surrounded by her trusted clan members, far from any modern medical intervention. It was a heroic act of courage and resilience. Every successful birth was a triumph, a renewal of hope for the entire group. This sacredness wasn't just intellectual. It was felt deeply. The vulnerability of a new mother, the helplessness of a newborn, demanded respect and protection. It fostered a primal reverence for life itself, for the miracle of creation unfolding before their eyes. And the loss? In a world of high infant mortality and short lifespans, grief was a constant companion. But even in sorrow, there was a drive to continue, a commitment to nurture the children who did survive. This cycle of birth, life, loss, and renewal shaped their emotional landscape in ways we can only begin to comprehend. These weren't simple people. They grappled with the same awe and terror that birth and death still evoke in us today. They developed rituals, stories, and beliefs to navigate these profound mysteries, seeking meaning in the inexorable flow of life and legacy. Their resilience, their capacity to love and nurture despite constant hardship, should inspire us. They found strength in each other, comfort in shared experience, and an enduring hope in the next generation. That's a legacy we carry in our very bones.